I just graduated from Dakota Valley in May, and I've been tutoring with Manoj for probably like 4 years-ish. And I normally do individual, but for like the last year and a half, I've been doing ACT class. And I see some familiar faces, so hi. And I normally teach reading or science, but right now it's mostly me, Lauren, and Manoj. So I'm gonna be doing a lot more than just reading, which is what I did a lot last year. But, so this is the notes that he has. Face-to-face kids, you need to wear your mask. Stay in the parking lot. So what we're going to start doing is like telling you can come in. So watch for that. And then bring hand sanitizer and snacks and water. So if you guys, normally we like give you guys food, but it is empty. So that's sad for everybody. Online, it says you guys need to log in 5 minutes early to the correct section. So that will always be sent out, and it's either going to be mine or Manoj's because Lauren doesn't have one. And then starting next Saturday, you need your TI-84 calculator. I don't have mine with me, but it's a requirement. And then if you guys want to get out your notebooks, we have to write this down. Super Bowl Sunday, which is the 7th of February, we're changing the time to 1 to 3 instead of 4 to 6, so 1 to 3. And then online, make sure that you guys are muted the whole time unless you have a question and that your cameras are off. And then for bathroom, if you guys are going there, it's down the hall to the left, and you guys have to keep a 6-foot distance. You have to wash your hands thoroughly with soap. We have a 5-minute break after the first hour, and after class you guys have to fold up your chairs, and there's like a little closet right there, and just like set it on the wall next to it. And then I think that's it. Okay, cool. Then we will start taking real notes. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Okay, cool. So today we are starting with ACT reading, and so the main things that you're going to need to know about this first is just like the basics. And what you need to know is it's 4 passages, and each passage has 10 questions. So that makes there 40 questions total. And you have 35 minutes to do it. And if you wanted to keep track of like what our goal is and what your goal should probably be, is roughly 7.5 to 8 minutes per passage. But obviously that's going to differ because like it's never always going to stay 7.5 minutes even every single time, because like for me, I do better with like fiction ones, so those take me less time. But if I was going to do like a science one or like a history one, that will take me more time. So it's just, you have to figure out what you're better at. But so the first thing that you're gonna have to do is take the test. So when you're taking the test, you are gonna have to read it. That's always the first thing you're going to do. Kind of seems obvious, but a lot of kids are like, should we read the questions first? Do not do that. Read first, then do the questions. The first thing that you're going to want to do, it's called pre-reading, but don't put too much thought into it. It's kind of just like a reading mindset. So just have the set idea, like, I'm going to read this and I'm going to comprehend it. When I first started taking ACT classes, it was like my freshman year in high school. Oh, sorry. And I remember my first test, I was literally petrified that Manoj was going to be mad at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. I'm going to get a 14 on this. I'm going to literally bomb it. My mom's going to hate me. I really want Chick-fil-A. Like, I can't think right now. I'm tired. Just like, if it helps, use your pencil to like follow it, but don't lose track of what you're doing, which you'll find out that it's really common to lose track of what you're actually doing. Okay, next what we're going to do is read it, and we're going to spell this right, you're going to identify the main idea, purpose, and tone. And an easier way to think about that is the what, the how, and the why. And this one, if you can like have your highlighter out, or if you have like a red pen, you're gonna want to annotate and so I'm not going to like write anything down, but what annotating is really whatever you make it out to be. When I first took ACT classes, they said to write in the margins. And personally, I hate writing in the margins, especially because, like I said, I would be a million different topics at once when I was reading. So I would overthink and like try and write a little summary of the only like 100-line passage that I just got after every paragraph. For me, it's a lot easier to just go through and underline, like, oh, this is a date, underline it. Oh, this is a name, circle it. And then like just do things like that, whatever works best for you. Underlining, circling, squaring, starring, those work best, but if you're better at writing in the margins, feel free to do that. Also, something to keep in mind, you guys are not reading to write an essay. This isn't like I don't know how to say it, like it's not a Google Scholar article. You're just reading a 100-line thing and you're answering 10 questions on it, so don't freak yourself out. Like it's literally just a 10-question passage, so that's all you need to really be worried about. Just don't overthink it. That's like the main problem, is people over reading and then not being able to answer the questions in time. But so after we're done reading, we're going to answer the questions. And the first thing you're going to want to do is analyze the questions. And that basically just means read close and know what it's asking. So for this one, something that I've seen that gets kids a lot is when it says like, which one does not, or what was the author not thinking? And then they don't read the not, and then they answer it wrong. So make sure that you're paying attention to little details that are actually in the questions. And another thing, this is what I'm gonna write at the end, but another thing is to predict what the answer is before you actually read the options. So if it was like, where did they go on Tuesday? And you're like, oh yeah, I think they went to the park on Tuesday. And then you read the options and park is C, perfect. But a lot of times it's going to be those like yes or no questions, or the questions that are like, what happened, or what was the author thinking? And then you're like, I don't really know. And then you start to read them and then they convince you the wrong answer. And keep in mind, they are here to literally, like ACT is paid and created to trick you, so don't let them do that. But, so the next thing we're going to want to do after analyzing is researching your answers, which it sounds a lot harder than it is, but all you're doing is looking back into the passage. ACT is a test that you can take without having any prior knowledge beforehand, except for in reading. I guess you have to know how to read. But other than that, it's not too, like, you don't have to research anything before this. But so the first thing you're going to want to do is go and look at the line numbers. Those are pretty much the easiest questions that you get. They're like, according to line 47, what did this word mean? Or in the passage, or in the paragraph, lines this to this, what did they mean? And so that's just what you're going to do, is jump straight back there. Those are probably the first questions you're going to want to start with, because those are the easiest ones. I mean, they tell you exactly where to find them. Next, you're going to want to do your detail questions. So this is where you're going to use your notes, aka your annotations, whatever you write or circle or underline. And these should be the next easiest ones because after details comes the broad summary questions or like your inference questions. So what was the author thinking? What was the tone? But the detail ones, I mean, it's what did they do after this? Or where did they go? Or, you know, questions like that, like they're literally in it. Normally the broad summary ones, there's only a few of them, like 1, 2 per passage max. So, and those are normally the ones that people get wrong. But don't let them freak you out also. And then again, I'm going to write here, predict your answer before reading options. Also, if you guys ever like miss what I'm writing or saying, or you can't read my writing, feel free to call me out because especially down there it gets pretty rough to see and I kind of write in like cursive print. So if you ever have an issue, let me know. Or if you guys ever, if I'm saying something and it doesn't make sense, feel free to call me out there and I'll explain it more. But so last part on answers is trap answers. Okay. So these are the ones that like they're gonna try and get you wrong or make you incorrect, I guess. And these are, the first kind are extreme, and these are the ones that use words like always or never. So, for example, if we were talking about somebody going to school on a Wednesday and you're like, they went to school on Wednesday, the answer choice would be they always go to school on Wednesday, or like they went to summer school and the answer choice would be they always go to summer school. We know that's technically not correct, and this is a good thing to like, if you wanted to write this down and use this for all subjects, if it's partially incorrect, it's incorrect. So like if your birthday was April 3rd of 2002 and then I was like, okay, so your birthday is April 3rd of 2005? No, it's still, like, it's April 3rd, but it's still wrong, even though it's partially wrong. So make sure that you're keeping track of that. Another one, this is really similar, it's misused detail. And so this one is just where, again, it's correct, but only partially. This comes a lot of times in English, too. So, again, they're here to try and mess you up. And then this is out of scope. And, I mean, all of these kind of can go together, but this just means it's too broad. And so that one, again, is where, like, they went to summer school, and then they said, oh, they always go to summer school. That's too broad of an answer. They don't always go to summer school. It just happened this time. Okay, next is split passages. So this is, if you wanted to like have a little heading on this, it would be types of passages. And the first is split. So basically what this means is that if you've ever looked at an ACT test, there's going to be passage A, passage B, and then you're going to answer questions in a different order. So how it's going to go is you're going to want to read passage A and then answer those questions. And so ACT has kind of changed. If you guys have taken a test within like the last 2 years, or if you haven't taken a test actually in the last 2 years, it looks different than our book. in our book, it pretty much tells you, like, okay, this is for passage A. Oop. Oh yeah. And then this one, it says this is passage A, this is passage B, and this is for questions on both. But in the new test, it does not. Normally, though, it just says, like, in the beginning of the question, according to passage A, according to passage B. But obviously, they're going to be similar. Like, I know one that we're going to read is about, like, dark matter, and they have, like, some of the same ideas. And so it would be really hard for you to read both passages and then answer questions, because they're literally going to put passage B questions, or answers, I guess, in the passage A questions and vice versa. So if it's fresh in your mind, it's going to be easier for you to answer. Next, this is how the test is, like, put in order. So, like I said, there's 4 different passages, and the first one is prose fiction. And so, basically what that means is fiction. It's like narration, stories. They're going to have characters, they're going to have relationships, feelings, things like that. Not saying that, like, the nonfiction ones are going to not have characters, but they're not going to, unless it's like bias from the author, they're not really going to have feelings or relationships. Next is social science. If this is easier for you to think of, it's like social studies. So that's going to be your history, your econ, just those kinds of things. And again, they're never going to, like, I know econ is a scary word for a lot of people. They're never going to give you an econ, like, problem. It's going to be like about the wealth of nations or about something like that. It's not going to be an actual econ question. Next is humanities. So this is going to be like your literature or your arts. It could literally just talk about poets or artists, anything like that. And then I'm going to put number 4 over here. Number 4 is natural science, and this is pretty much what it says. It's just science, so this can be biochem, it could be biochem, it could be astrology, astronomy, it could be literally anything. Physics, I mean, you name a science class and it's probably a passage on it. So, yeah, that is really all I have for you guys for notes, but don't get too excited. We're going to have to start doing a test. So today notes didn't take very long, so we're just going to jump to a test right now. So we will start with, let me find what I'm looking for. Okay, it's practice test 2, passage 1, so that is going to be page 124. Also, before we take the test, something to keep in mind about these 4 is you need to have your game plan set. So obviously today, since it's like, some of you, this might be your first thing ever on ACT, you're going to want to decide, like, okay, I'm better at prose fiction, so I'm going to do that first, because you're going to want to do the ones that you're faster at first, so you have more time to allocate to the harder ones at the end. So right now what I would do is write down your, like, order. for me, mine is 1, 3, 2, 4. But it can change. Like, if you end up taking more tests and you're like, oh wow, I'm way better at natural science than I am prose fiction, then you can change it and, you know, do whatever works. I wouldn't recommend changing it a month before a test, though. Like, I would stay that way the whole time. And you'll learn that in science, it's very different, so this is really nice that it's never going to change. You will always open a test and it will be in this order. But since it's our first class, I'm going to give us 10 minutes, and as you guys know, actually I'll give us like 10, 15, but our goal is like 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes, so I'll start to bring us lower time every time. Also, this is what your sound will sound like. I don't like the radar one because it scares me. So, everybody's there, and no questions.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, but which passage are we doing again?
It's page 124 in your orange book.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I don't know for, like, with me, we probably won't use, oh, actually, I don't know if you guys have the Kaplan books. Do you guys have the blue ones? Like the big ones? No, those are all your books. Okay, then just kidding, that's for advanced. So, then I will start the timer, and we will get going. Okay, so 10 minutes, 15 seconds. Your time starts now. Okay, time is up. Doesn't look like you guys are crunching time, so that's good. We'll just start going over answers then. So number 1 is A. 2 is H. 3 is B. 4 is J. 5 is C. 6 is F. 7 is D. 8 is G. 9 is D. And 10 is J. Does anybody need any of those repeated?
You said 6 was F, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, does anybody have any questions over any of these? Mm-hmm.
Number 6,
Okay, so what'd you put for this one?
I put J.
Okay, so this one, I'd consider it like a detail question, so I would go back and look. And so it says on 85, so that's on the page with all the questions, it says, but for those few years, the Summer Sandwich Club brought joy to one camp counselor and many young campers. And then before that, it says, that whole paragraph, for the next 2 years, the Sandwich Club had regular meetings Monday through Friday at noon, all summer long. After that, Max and his mother moved closer to his grandparents, and I went back to having lunch with the rest of my staff. So, that one, I would say it's his favorite part of the camp, or part of camp as an inference question, but I would make sure that if it's not in the passage, then say that one, but since it's in that one, I'd say that one. Any other questions? Okay. Anybody online? Okay. Then, let's see. I'll see if there's one that I think. Okay, so really quick for number 3, this one, it says, the idea that Jake's mother is trying her best to take care of her son is least supported. So a lot of times people will just disregard that least. So make sure, you're trying to basically figure out which one makes her sound like the worst parent. So in this case, that would be B, Catherine Maxwell needs to have a healthy lunch. And then we're going to do a vocab question. We'll do 4. So it says, as used in line 57. So those are the types of questions where it says directly, go back to there. So this is easy. You go back to 57, and then normally what I do is I read the entire sentence. I don't just read a partial sentence. And if you don't get all you want from the entire sentence, then I would literally read the whole paragraph. Because a lot of times, for 57, that is the whole paragraph, really. It's 3 sentences, so you can just read the whole thing. And then you want the answer that doesn't change the meaning of the word. So in this case, what I do is, it was quite a predicament, is what the sentence says. So I would think, it's quite a sticky situation. I know that's not the option that they're going to give you, but you want something like that, something that it's something that needs to be fixed. And so in this case, I wouldn't say disaster because it was quite a predicament and quite a disaster. Disaster gives a way, stronger connotation than just, it was a predicament, it just makes it seem like it was falling apart. Next, solution. We know they haven't come up with a solution yet, so not that. And then complaint. Again, it was quite a complaint. It was more he was telling her to fix it, not anybody was complaining. So then challenge, I would say, is the best answer. A lot of times you're going to get questions that you don't know. Well, not a lot of times, but sometimes you'll get a question and you don't know the meaning of the word, or you don't know the meaning of the option, one of the options. Pick the one that if you know parts of words, if you know A means opposite at the beginning of a word or something like that. Just use your context clues as best you can. There's sometimes you're not going to know the answer to everything, but our goal is to use what we have and do as best we can with that, and then obviously learn more in the class. Let's see. We probably have time to do one more. Let's see if I was writing down some things. Oh, I was going to say, I cannot tell you guys. I used to tell you guys when you were halfway through, especially when we do like a whole test in one day. And I can't do that. And you used to be able to ask like the proctor person, I don't know what they're called, but at the ACT testing center, like the instructor, and you can't ask them now for halfway. I do, or I did, I don't take it anymore, but I ask them to write it on the whiteboard. So I know talking to people is sometimes scary, but it helped me a lot, and having a watch, and he'll talk about that when you get closer to a test, but like if you have a regular watch, or sometimes you can count on the clocks on the walls, but I would, try and keep track. Okay, I have 35 minutes right now, and then go from there. They will tell you normally 5 minutes and 1 minute for time's up, but that doesn't help me if I'm really struggling on the second passage and I'm like 20 minutes in. It doesn't help me if I'm on the third passage and there are 5 minutes left. So writing that down, or if you are too scared to ask them and you have a watch, when you have your packet, what I would do is I would like write the time that it was, and then I would add 35. So it sucks if it's like 53 or 45 and you have to like add it, but that few seconds of just adding it and knowing when the time was going to be up was better than having to worry about if they were going to tell me, because sometimes they stink, like they're not very good. Also, before we take the next one, my timer does suck. So like you guys just heard it was super quiet. I don't know why that is, but I am just gonna have to deal with it, I guess. And so recently what I've been doing is just watching it, and if it doesn't go off, which it will do that, I will just tell you guys like, hey, time is up, sorry it's not working. I'm going to bring us down, I think, to 9 minutes. Does anybody think we should do less or more? We're good with 9 minutes? Okay. I feel like that 10 minutes, it's a totally different group this time, and it's way smaller today. But sometimes 10 minutes is perfect for them, but it's awesome that we're starting at 9 because 8 is like where we want to be, so we're even closer. This time we're gonna do social science, since at least the people in class are from the Midwest. This is gonna be kind of a review because it's not Martin Luther King, it's Lewis and Clark. A little different, but yeah. So this one, 9 minutes. Yeah, that's all I have. So time starts now. Okay, this is one of the times that my timer isn't working, so time is up. And does anybody need any more time? No? Okay, cool. So 11 is B, 12 is F, 13 is D, 14 is H, 15 is B, 16 is G, 17 is C, 18 is J, 19 is D, and 20 is F. Does anybody need any of those repeated? Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Number 12.
Can you talk about number 20?
Yes, 20, 12, any others?
18.
Okay. So 12, okay. This one normally gets a lot of kids. This is the focus of the passage can be summarized best as the study of both. And the answer is Lewis and Clark expedition and the characteristics of the United States in the early 1800s. Did you pick H? No? What'd you pick?
J.
J. Okay, so a lot of times people pick H because it says the Northwest Passage in it. But in this case, again, this is one of those like broad summary ones, so you can't like directly go back. But I would say this best fits the characteristics of the 1800s rather than the losses and difficulties, because they talked about like before they were going and like the training they had to have, what their point of like going was, and them sending things back. There was really only like a couple paragraphs where they were like, they had problems with the indigenous people, they did this, and like had issues, but it wasn't like the whole passage wasn't about it. So I would say it's more the characteristics of the time and then also when they went. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Next one was 18. Okay, so this again is the, according to the passage, which were a primary danger that they faced on the expedition, and its conflicts with the indigenous people. And so this is in paragraph 4, and it says, despite having adequate supplies and equipment, including guns, the men's journey was still a dangerous one. They were traversing the wild, and until this point, the only other individuals to have crossed it were fur traders and trappers. It was largely Indian territory, and although most tribes, such as the Otos, the Missouris, and the Mandans, were friendly, the Sioux and the Blackfeet tried to impede the group's progress on more than one occasion. Illness claimed the life of one man early, but despite the strenuous pace of the expedition, there were no further losses. So it's saying that like the only thing that continued to like come up were the indigenous people, or only a few groups of the indigenous people. And then the last one is 20. According to the passage, in the early part of their journey, all of the members had to do which of the following except. And so this one was receiving wilderness training, and it does actually mention it, but it's on line 22, and it says, after receiving wilderness training in Washington, Meriwether set out. So since it talks about him setting out right afterwards, that indicates that he's the only one that got the wilderness training, so he's the only one, so they didn't all get it, but they all got the other stuff. Other than that, we are good for today. I have a few things that I forgot to say that I'm going to say. If you guys have snacks today, obviously it was a really short class, and normally it's from 4 to 6, but since we have advanced like we do with the parents, they have the other room, so you guys only have an hour for the first class. But when you guys have snacks, take them with you. He doesn't want you to like throw them in the garbage here. Ask questions, don't be afraid. Also, if you guys are doing your homework and you come up with something that you're like, I literally have no idea what this means, whether it's any subject and you don't want to ask in the group, feel free to direct message me or direct message Manoj. And if it's something that he needs, like, it's not a question he could answer, he can send it to me or vice versa, so don't worry about that. Don't leave until you're dismissed, because like sometimes I've had where somebody online will talk and then the whole class is leaving and then it's like a big mess. Don't put your chairs away today, but starting next time you will. That's it. So I will see you next week.